Thank you for joining us for Central Georgia Focus, the Ask Mayor Miller edition. Every month we sit down with Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller and ask questions sent in by you and the folks at the Center for Collaborative Journalism. Thank you so much again for joining us, Mr. Mayor. You know, just last week we had an anti-Semitic group that distributed flyers in Macon neighborhoods, even in Warner Robins, and demonstrated outside Temple Beth Israel. It prompted hundreds of people to respond the next day in support of our Jewish community. I know you were out of town, but what are your thoughts about what transpired here?
Well, I think it's a very unfortunate situation. Every time we have a particular challenge like that, we have to look for what is good about the situation. And what's good about it is people came out in unity and support. My phone was ringing off the hook, as you can imagine. I was constantly in contact with the GBI, the FBI, local sheriff's department, even people from the synagogue there was texting back and forth or calling me. So we certainly was aware of what's going on, but it's a time for our community to come together and to celebrate everyone here and the peace and the love that we all enjoy. Unfortunately, they went to Warner Robins, came to Macon, and went to Atlanta, but so far the only person that got arrested was one person, and that person was only arrested in Macon-Bibb County out of all the places they went in Georgia.
Did it surprise you that our community was targeted?
Not necessarily. I'm not sure why it was targeted. I think it's just on the route from Warner Robins. You know, if you leave Florida and go straight to Atlanta, you're going to go through Macon. So it's just one of those happenstance. I'm not sure if it was specifically targeted, but I know that the FBI and our local U.S. attorney is working hard on that, and I think you'll see some more coming in the near future on that.
And of course, this incident has attracted attention from all over the country. Even the White House, the second gentleman, has responded and applauded our community's response. So have you been in touch with others in Washington? And you mentioned, law enforcement, but.
Yeah, we've been in touch with everyone all the way up the flagpole, and we certainly appreciate all the the remarks and the thoughts that they have for us, and recognizing that we did the right thing. Even the governor himself made several comments about it. Chris Carr at the state attorney's office made several comments about it. So we don't want to give them the platform to spill all this hate. So it's not necessarily something we need to just keep going through over and over again. Let the authorities do their job, and I think we'll all be satisfied with the results at the end.
I know the Telegraph and our partners at GPB were very concerned about putting out too much information about this group because it almost kind of feeds them, and they want these kind of confrontational videos and stuff to promote their cause. Well, while that was going on, you and your colleagues from across the state of Georgia were in Savannah for the Georgia Municipal Association gathering. What was the tone of that event, and what are some of the major issues that are affecting cities like ours?
Well, it was one of the largest attended events. I think after COVID, people are starting to get back out. It was a very rewarding experience for me this last weekend. In particular, I spent a lot of time with the Commissioner of DCA, Christopher Nunn, talking about affordable housing. I served on an affordable housing panel as a panelist to 537 mayors, as well as the public safety panel. So to offer a little bit of advice about how Macon-Bibb County is handling things and the way they recognize it and they understand that was something kind of rewarding for us. It's also had a chance to talk about our technology that we have in Macon-Bibb County, share that information with other places, as well as some transit possibilities. So it's very rewarding for us. I think we brought a lot of good information home. We've got 3 or 4 communities that are going to be coming in to explore Macon-Bibb County in the very near future because they're interested in some of the wonderful things we have going on. So it's always nice to kind of hear that as well.
I think your public information officer too, Chris Floor, presented to the group. What other kind of topics were covered by folks here in Macon-Bibb County at that convention? What is the good news that you're sharing with others?
Well, the good news is that affordable housing, Macon-Bibb County is starting to lead the way with our Macon-Bibb County Affordable Housing Fund. The technology that we're doing with technology as far as the flock cameras, the shot spotter, the Verkada cameras that we have coming downtown, the Brookdale Warming Center, we call it Brookdale Resource Center now. Everyone's very excited about what we're doing with the gardens there. We've produced about 600 pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables there already. And there has been a lot of conversation there about how is Macon-Bibb County, while everyone else is keeping their millage rate the same or increasing their millage rate, how's Macon-Bibb County able to cut theirs in almost half? While other communities are struggling to, with the values going up, no one's able to still cut their taxes as far as reducing the millage rate. And they were all asking questions about that as well.
Okay, we have some questions about that coming up a little later on, but you mentioned Brookdale Resource Center, still hard habits to break, but what is the latest in what you're trying to do with the homeless community? I know there's been talk about doing an extended survey to try to figure out what these people need who are living on the streets, but yet we still see these makeshift encampments popping up here and there, even though there have been great efforts in our community to reach out. So what are some of the next steps?
Well, we're continuing to do our Rethinking Homelessness program. We're at the very beginning of that. Jake Hall is doing some great things, and we started a little Middle Georgia type of attack on that. We've been working with Warner Robins, all the things you've seen recently in their areas directly from Macon-Bibb County and our relationship with United Way. We're trying to attack this from a regional perspective. I think it's something that's going to be good, beneficial for everyone. We've been able to expand the offerings there at Brookdale Resource Center to include a Hello House in the back that you basically can go through just for 1 or 2 nights if you don't want to go through the whole program. Still gets you out of the weather, gets you to some meals and some cover. But also we try to talk them into getting into the transition program that we have there to getting into housing. So we're starting to tackle that. It's not going to go away overnight. We're on a major interstate, actually 2, with 16 and 75 coming through our community, as well as 475 on the river. We're always going to have those challenges. We have a $550 million project going on in the center of our downtown right now, and there's a lot of things we can't do right now to take care of some of the issues because of all the road work being constructed. So I think we're going to be in a good situation. People are really rallying around the effort. They're more visible now because, like I said, all the trees are gone, all the other things are gone. But we're also post-pandemic as well with COVID, and a lot of people are homeless now that wasn't homeless before. So it's always going to be a challenge, but I'm confident we're going to take care of the situation and address it in the most humane way we can.
Sometimes when you see folks and they may be talking to themselves, they may be yelling out, and you don't know whether it's something related to mental illness or maybe some sort of drug substance that they're taking. What kind of a problem do we have with street drugs, or do we in those kind of camps? I mean, you get a lot of attention cities out west in larger cities where you see needles and people shooting up in public, and do we have those kinds of issues here as well?
Well, certainly. I think you have an issue with fentanyl and those types of things as well. It's on the increase all over the United States. Macon-Bibb County is not any different from that. So we continue to see those struggles. There's some evidence of that in some of the encampments that we have had to clean up for the safety of those involved, and it's going to continue to do that. We talked about the mental health issues, and hopefully I spoke to Senator Gooch and while we're in Savannah. We want to make sure they make some good efforts, as well as Congressman Crow and others that are leading the effort in the House side, to make sure that they fund House Bill 1013 and others that they had in the last couple of years. They set the project up, and I think they're starting to open their eyes to how we need to save the money on the front end to save people, and I think they're going to put some funding behind it next year, so we're going to watch that very closely in the legislature.
Well, speaking of funding, since we last met, the Macon-Bibb County Commission has unanimously passed the nearly $204 million budget for fiscal year 24. We'll talk money and taxes when we come back. Well, welcome back to our Ask Mayor Miller edition of Central Georgia Focus. I'm your host, Liz Fabian from the Center for Collaborative Journalism. Now, Mr. Mayor, we know that the County Commission unanimously passed that $204 million fiscal year 24 spending plan that included the $5 million property tax rollback. But as you mentioned there, you're still waiting to see what the tax digest will come out to be after property tax appeals go through until July 10th. So what kind of feeling are you getting from where we may be with the digest, and what kind of preliminary estimates are you getting in terms of maybe how many more mills you could possibly roll back?
Well, it's really hard to say now until we get those appeals in. We do know that the tax digest itself has increased because of some valuations. As I mentioned last time, even if the valuations go up, Macon-Bibb County doesn't profit in that situation. We don't take any additional funds unless we do not accept the rollback. So our plan right now is to accept the rollback, make sure we roll the millage rate back again. We'll make that decision in August before the tax bills start to go out. So I think the taxpayers can expect another millage rate rollback in behalf of the county. The school system, on the other hand, may not do that. I mentioned earlier we were in Savannah, 537 other mayors across the state of Georgia, and each and every one of them that I talk with are all either increasing their taxes or keeping the millage rate the same. And when you keep the millage rate the same, that actually increases the taxes, and that's where people get confused a little bit about the values and the taxes.
Well, we do have a question from our CCJ partner, Damon Wood, who wants to know what good does it do really to roll back the taxes if those property valuations are increasing? Because he says he's paying about 40% more.
Well, I'm not sure what his particular value is. Everyone who says that, when we look at their taxes, that's simply not the case. The tax values we have no control of the tax values at all. That's the tax assessors, that's based on state law. What I'll say to anyone who makes that comment is that, but for this rollback millage rate, your taxes will be 40% higher than what they are. Most of the people that I have heard from, other than commercial, most of the residential people have seen a drastic decrease in their taxes and the millage rate. Not just the millage rate, but the amount of money they paid. The problem with these estimated bills they get is they see the amount of their valuations and they see a tax beside it. What they don't see is how much the loss rollback is, how much the OLOS rollback is in real numbers. And they won't see that until the final bill goes out in the next couple of months. When you look at that, you're going to see the school system's rate, you're going to see our rate, and you're going to see the substantial decrease that you've had over the last couple of years. But like I said, our partners in neighboring counties are keeping their millage rate the same, which means they're collecting more taxpayer money from the people, and they're not rolling those taxes back. So as ours continue to decrease, everyone else continues to stay the same or increase. So that is a cost savings for everyone.
When I asked our chief appraiser, Andrea Crutchfield, about this issue, she said people have a misconception that they are increasing the values to make up for that $5 million rollback, but that is not the case, right?
That's one of the most laughable things I hear. We have zero-sum gain in those valuations going up. Unless you sell a property, unless we build a new construction, we don't get that increased value if we roll the taxes back. So if we collect $10 million or the value assesses $10 million, we roll it back 2 more mills. That's the bottom line, is it's a net zero gain for the county. And we don't actually know what they're doing on the tax assessor side through the valuations because that's state law mandated on how they do that. All we can control is the millage rate, and the people in Bibb County should be thankful that we're rolling the millage rate back, because otherwise their taxes will be 30–40% higher.
And of course, when I had talked to Ms. Crutchfield, she also explained that for the first time in 5 years, they have gone in and updated the construction table, because one of the things they factor into the property assessment is how much would it cost to rebuild your house as new, and we all know what happened to those values in the past 5 years.
Right, they've grown substantially. One of the reasons that we're struggle with affordable housing anywhere in the state of Georgia is because the average per square foot is $175 to $200 per square foot, and that means a 1,000 square foot home will cost you $175,000 plus the cost of the land, and for some people that's simply not affordable.
Well, recently you took the county commission on a tour of some local parks and recreation centers, and Commissioner Virgil Watkins was pushing to maybe hire more people, expand the hours. What do you think are the most needed items for recreation in Macon-Bibb County? What is your vision?
Well, a lot of funding went into the recreation in the last SPLOST, a lot of funding, and some of those projects were prolonged. So what we're trying to do now is we have several commissioners that are reaching the end of their time as commissioners because they're term limited. We have 3 or 4 people that will be rolling off as commissioners. So we want to make sure that the previous SPLOST that was passed, that the money went to directly where it's supposed to go. And some of that included some recreation spending that has not happened because we're way ahead of that collection rate. So we took a tour to those facilities to kind of update the needs because they've changed, but also pricing has gone up and increased substantially on those projects. So we want to see how much we can get for our money. We want to listen to the people there, but more importantly, our director is there on a daily basis. They know the needs. We wanted the commissioners to be able to see that with their own eyes, so we can develop a plan over the next year to start taking care of the needs of each one of those recreation departments. Most of those included updating the facilities, whether it's inside or outside, making a few changes to recreational activities and some increased programming as well.
And of course, funding for public safety has been a priority for your administration. Is that paying off, the extra money? And do you see the status of crime and law enforcement protection enhancing or getting better for our community?
Well, I certainly believe it is. I think some people that just strictly watches the news and they see the number of shootings or death and you gauge it like that, then of course you won't know that. But behind the scenes, we know that we've hired more deputies than we've ever hired in a 2-year period of time, part-time and full-time. We're being able to avoid having to go directly to the jail now for deputies. They can get out to the road. We're hiring part-time employees. The technology that I spoke about is making a real difference. It's going to help do that. Code enforcement is helping relieve the Sheriff's Department of some of the lower media level duties, so it actually frees up resources. These school zone cameras have been a tremendous help because now you don't have to have an officer near those schools at all times. You can still make sure that they're not speeding by doing that. So that's another challenging area that we're using other type of technologies to think outside the box to help with those resources. But the MVP program is doing well. I do expect some really good results after the review this next year. and we continue to make sure that the money gets out to the people that need it the most.
You mentioned the speed zone cameras, and we have a question from Cedric Duhart about those. He said after his friend recently got several tickets, he overheard a conversation with a law enforcement officer noting that these cameras are only in lower income school areas. He wants to know why there's not surveillance at all the school zones.
Well, I would disagree with that assessment unless I live in a lower income part of the Macon-Bibb County, because they're in mine. They're in both the schools that my kids attended, both over in the West Side area and the Rutland area as well. We targeted a rollout based on the middle and high schools. So the middle and high schools were the ones that rolled out first. There's a list of others that are going, including some private schools and some charter schools that you'll see in the near future. But we're waiting on the school system to sign all the documentation necessary to do that. But we've always wanted to roll those out across the entire community in a way that we thought was going to be the best way. Some of those are state routes; it takes longer to get to. GDOT has a lot to do with that, and we're migrating that process. So our intent is to get them out to every school that we can, that we're allowed to. We're starting to see a slower speed go down right now, but in August we hope to start rolling some more out.
And he was also saying about those tickets. He said in that one instance, like they got 2 or more tickets consecutively in the same location, and Cedric was suggesting having an officer there would reduce consecutive ticketing, but as you said, that ties up manpower resources. Is that the rationale?
Well, if we have an officer there, that means I need 32 officers just for school zone. That's not going to happen in this environment in the world. You're not going to just keep creating more officers in the national environment. That wouldn't make good financial sense anyway. The cameras are starting to directly slow down the traffic that we're needed there. So we're going to look forward to getting those out, sending the proper message to everyone. If someone gets ticketed in multiple days, that means they were speeding and risking the lives of our children in multiple events, and they should stop doing that.
And the revenue from that is what has funded the dome cameras in downtown. Are they up and operational now?
Certainly, we have a number of those already deployed. We've recently gotten a grant also for from the governor for some flock cameras that we've been talking about for a long period of time, the tag readers. So we're linking all those things up together. That's going to provide a more safer atmosphere for everyone. It does take a little time to do that, but that's a perfect example of how you can take folks that are disobeying the law, putting our children's life at risk in school zones, and taking that minimal fine that they do and putting it into a good cause like cameras and other things to increase our public safety and our awareness.
All right, well, one of the reasons that the revenue is up is because of growth in our community. We're going to talk more about growth in Macon-Bibb County when we come back, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Central Georgia Focus, the Ask Mayor Miller edition. Now, Mr. Mayor, you mentioned a little bit about getting a grant for the flock cameras, but Georgia recently was also awarded $1.3 billion to expand broadband services in the state. How do you think Macon-Bibb can capitalize on some of those funds?
Well, a lot of those projects that out of that money were for outlying areas, your areas that are more rural in nature as opposed to Macon-Bibb County. So we may get some of that money, but it's also going to be for the surrounding areas. I think Peach County, Twiggs County, Monroe, those places that don't have very good service right now and connectivity are probably going to get the lion's share of those monies. But certainly we've been in contact with our senators and our representatives up there in D.C. representing us, and we do expect that as well as some infrastructure money in the future coming to Bibb County.
Because I know we did expose some kind of chinks in the armor, I guess, when everybody had to be homeschooled, right. And with the technology and making sure that people had internet connections and such. So speaking of technology upgrades, City Hall recently has gotten a refurbished audio and video system. What was all done there in the commission chambers, and what can the public see from that?
Well, what we wanted to do is actually to update everything. It's been long needed. A lot of times we had issue with being as open and transparent as we like to. We want to be able to present everything in a good way. We want to do a lot of more presentations. Sometimes we may have to have a outside person from another place appear at our meetings with us, and that capability that we had there didn't give us the need to do that. We also do a lot of Facebook Live and things like that. It's important to get that taken care of, but really it's just updating the equipment, make sure we have better camera angles in there for other events that we have, and making sure that people at home can hear us and see us when they need to, and making sure that if we have visitors that need to present that are not there in person because they can't always be here, that we have the opportunity to be able to go back and forth with them as well.
And I know you're still kind of working out the bugs of the system, but every meeting it's getting better, isn't it?
There's a learning curve.
Well, downtown is also beginning to see a big building boom. It's about to just really kick off here. Probably at the end of this year and into next year, we're going to see the Crescent Corners apartment building that's going to go up there where Larry Bush Tire is. There's a parking deck associated associated with that, and then the new hotel on Poplar Street. There's also discussions going on for another development behind City Hall there with another parking deck. So what are your thoughts about how the development is progressing?
I think it's progressing in a way that's pleasing to me. This has been a project that was considered dead several years ago. We've revitalized that or revised that now. It's going to happen. They're going to break ground in this year, which is exciting to know that we've got a new hotel coming. Plenty of residents are going to be moving into downtown Macon. But it's not just downtown Macon, although we have about 700 I expect over the next 18 to 22 months that'll be coming downtown, which may help you get another store or marketplace there in that area. In the last year, I would say since last July, we put a lot of housing stock on the market, which has accounted for a lot of the growth that we've had in our community. When people want to know how you grow in the digest, it's not because of these evaluations, it's because of this new build that we have, both in residential units and apartment units, and both in home ownership and rental, because we're very much concerned about diversifying our portfolio to make sure we have something for everybody in our community.
And the William Randall building there, the former home of the tax assessor's office and the land bank. Recently, you transferred over to the UDA, Urban Development Authority, several parcels around there. Do you have any thoughts about what might happen there in what Mayor Rickert used to call Mid-City Square?
Well, I always have thoughts about everything. That's something I won't be talking about right now, but it's certainly, we have a lot of plans for all of our community. You know, from the mall to East Macon, to North Macon, South Macon, West Macon, everybody's going to be involved in these projects. We have something to be coming downtown eventually there near City Hall, and we're excited about that because it's positive growth for our community in a meaningful way, and it's going to help lighten the load for everybody in our community as far as tax is concerned.
And downtown business owners are buying in because the Downtown Business Improvement District, which actually has property owners paying more in taxes for more services, is expanding in downtown, moving more toward that Mid-City Square kind of area. So more is coming, right?
Things are coming. We're trying to grow the whole area downtown all the way to Oglethorpe. Eventually, I don't think the jail will be there. Probably will be at another location, and that'll give you an opportunity to complete the whole Second Street corridor, all the way through from Mercer University directly to the new Hope National Park. So new and exciting things are going to happen. Don't happen overnight, but we're certainly encouraged about the beginnings of that now.
So y'all are starting to scout locations for a possible new jail?
I suspect that that's in the works.
You suspect. I have a feeling you know it's in the works. Also, the UDA recently took over management of the whole parking system downtown. And we do have a CCJ partner question about how much revenue does that bring in and where does that money go from the parking meters downtown? Well,
the revenue doesn't come to Macon-Bibb County. It goes to the Urban Development Authority. They run that privately. All that money gets reinvested back in downtown. Right now, I think that this new changeover is going to be something that most people like. If you like the parking meters, or it's good for business downtown, whether you like the meters or not. It allows you to go through an app that's going to be very accessible and easy to use. I even downloaded it to my phone, and I'm not very tech savvy, and put my credit card, debit card through there. They're working out the kinks on that. But also, if I need to stay for a few minutes, I can drop a couple of coins in there under the new system, so I'm very excited about that. But it's not a money maker, so to speak, but it allows you to have proper turnover there to help the businesses out, to be long sustaining. But you know, I just got back from Savannah, right? I paid $20 to park, you know, on one day there. Macon-Bibb County, you can get in and out for a couple of dollars. So I don't think it's something that's not unique to everywhere. When I go to Atlanta, I expect to pay. When I go to Augusta, I expect to pay it. So every good quality city that's growing like Macon-Bibb County should expect to pay a couple of dollars for parking, but it's just part of the process.
Okay, we just have a few seconds left, really. So we have another question. Do you have a favorite act or music performer that you would like to see christen the amphitheater, and what will be the name of that new venue?
Well, I can't tell you either one of those things.
Okay.
I've always got
I guess we're done then.
Favorite act, but we're working on that sponsorship. I think we'll reveal something in the next couple of months as well as the schedule.
Remember, send your questions to mercerccj@gmail.com. Have a great day.